What's up, y'all? Hey, everyone. Hope you can hear me. Hey, Nikisha. Brian, I'm sorry, that's not true. Roger has confirmed that he is no longer working at GH. Hey, Nathan. Hey, Kaiwan. Hey, Angel. Hey, Jakarius. Hey, Sandy. How are y'all doing today? Ooh, happy anniversary! I hope everyone's day is going well so far. Oh, I didn't even check. Y'all can hear me, right? Okay, yeah. Usually I'm on the ball with checking, but I decided not to. Just being reckless today, I guess. But y'all can hear me, so it's all good. I've been starting it for a year, man. I launched this channel, like the Dion's Corner channel, I think in 2014. January 1st as well. So, easy day to remember. But I didn't do GH Envy for quite some time after that. Also apologize if it's lagging. It seems to be on my end. I just got a lot opened at the moment on my computer. But yeah, guys, welcome to GHMV Reacts, and we're not reacting to old school GH. I accidentally put that as the title, but I've edited it, and so hopefully if you refresh the video, it should show up as the proper name. It's showing up properly on mine, I think. But if you guys were here before I edited it, which was like moments before I started streaming, then it might still be the GHMV Reacts to old school GH. We'll get into that in December. We'll react to some old school stuff in December for sure. But yeah, this live stream is to talk about how Roger Howarth has confirmed that he is no longer on GH. He did an interview with Soap Opera Digest confirming it. Off for 2 days because of Thanksgiving. Oh yeah, it's Thanksgiving tomorrow in the States. Happy Thanksgiving to y'all. Funny enough, at my job, I had someone from Georgia that was visiting, from Georgia, obviously. And they were like, I heard you guys don't celebrate Thanksgiving in Canada. And I was like, I was very nice to them because, you know, I've accepted the fact that Americans don't seem to know anything about Canada. And I was like, no, we celebrated Thanksgiving a month ago, in October. We do it in October every year. But I also explained that Thanksgiving here is like nothing in comparison to how y'all go out all out in the States. And I actually really enjoy watching like your guys' Macy Day parade, like on TV and stuff. If I'm at home to catch it. I'm working tomorrow, unfortunately. So maybe I'll get my family to record it, but I won't be watching live. But yeah, and I also love watching the GH Thanksgiving episodes, and we're getting one tomorrow. And I won't even be able to watch it till like late at night tomorrow because I got some other commitments after work. Or I might have to watch it like Friday morning. Actually, I can't even watch it Friday morning because it's Black Friday and I have to work early. Oof. I swear I'll watch it at some point. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch base on what Roger Howarth had said. I'll loosely read the interview. I don't want to read the whole thing because it's they're exclusive. But long story short, he says that he got a call from Frank Valentini saying that when his contract was up at ABC, he wasn't going to be offered a new contract and that the character of Austin would be killed off. And that's something that I guess that they both wanted and needed to do to move this Cyrus story on. Yeah, they're getting a GH episode tomorrow on Thanksgiving. How wild. But yeah, what else did he say? I mean, he was shocked at first, but he had hindsight and realized that he had a good run, over 10 years on the show as 3 different characters. Funny enough, Soap Opera Digest actually put the elephant in the room on the table, saying that fans were disappointed in the character of Austin, and asked him if it was something that he sensed or was frustrated by. And I'll read his entire quote here. Sorry. He says, "Look, I love being an actor. The actor's job is to get a script, learn the scene, perform the scene. And I always enjoy doing that. There was never a day where I didn't have one moment of absolute joy. When I was at General Hospital, there was always a moment every day where something magic happened. And I'm not saying I was responsible for it. Here's an example. I was working with Maura and Nicholas, so Ava and Spencer, one day in the Cassadine living room, and Nicholas walked in on set, and Spencer said to Ava, 'Where's my father?' And he did it so well. It was amazing. So that's the kind of day I always try to design for myself. And I got a lot of those days playing Austin. In terms of his involvement on the canvas and whether he was a Quartermain or not a Quartermain, or, some of the other stories that kind of began for one reason or another shifted into a different story, it's not something an actor can really control or concern themselves with. It is not our job. I know that people who have that job are lovely, people who work really hard. So while I understand your question, I don't feel like I've been slighted in any way or that there was bad juju around these decisions. I think that the writers and the producers and the directors work really hard to entertain a really loyal and dedicated audience, and I hope that they succeed in thrilling the audience for another 60 years. I will say this, I am really proud of myself, totally truthfully, honest to God, I always tried my hardest. So for me, ultimately, there's no loss. I know I did everything I could." So yeah, that was Roger's kind of thoughts on kind of the failure of Austin as a character. I mean, Sandy, you say that, but you heard it there first. Roger's honest to God, truthful answer to that question. Hi, Kaiwan. You're gonna miss Austin? I'm curious what you liked about him, because, even Soap Opera Digest kind of said, the fans were disappointed in the character. And I mean, that's part of the live stream today as well, as I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think went wrong with Austin? And I think, even Roger kind of pointed out things just kept on switching with the character in terms of story. And I think that's ultimately where the character failed. They tried to put him into too many lanes, and it was messy. It was messy, to be frank with you. You said, I wish they had kept him as Franco. They worked so hard to redeem him. Yeah, but so it's funny because, as a person that's not a fan of Franco, even I know that eventually the writers got to a point where the character would finally resonate with some fans. And there was success in the Frizz pairing. I don't ignore that fact. For me personally, I did not like Franco, and there's rumors as to why they killed him off. I think the biggest rumor, and we honestly don't have any way to confirm it. They basically said there's a rumor out there that they just don't want rapist characters on the show. And contrary to the rewrites, there's a lot of people that didn't buy any of the rewrites that they kind of did with Franco. Austin, he was more nicer version of time. Sorry? Oh, if they want to make us a villain, why do you keep on sorry. I'm kind of not getting what you're saying, but somewhat am, I think. You either wanted him as a villain, maybe? But yeah, sorry, going back on the Franco thing. Like, they just said that they don't want to rape his character. I feel like not everyone was able to accept it, that, like, the rewrites. And it largely was because the rewrites were flimsy at best. They, with the tumor storyline that they gave Franco, they, initially they were like, okay, well, the tumor is why he did these, like, crazy, outrageous, violent things, and so they removed it, and so, he couldn't be helped. But at the same time, we've seen Franco do violent things even after the tumor was removed, so, and then they would sweep the stuff that he did after the tumor was removed under the rug. We saw him stab Heather Weber and bury her alive and hide it. We saw him basically trick Carly and I think Jordan and I think Sean. I can't remember who else was all in there. But he locked them in a freezer just because Carly had cheated on him. And then he also strapped a shock collar to a man who, in all fairness, did rape Elizabeth when she was a teenager, and put him in a dog cage. So clearly it wasn't the tumor that made him do violent things. Not that the guy didn't deserve it, in that case, because he was clearly not a changed man in his time, all his time that he spent in prison. Yes, he did mention that he was open to other soaps. I'll read that part of the interview. I still have it up. I just didn't want to read the whole thing, because it is their exclusive interview, and I didn't want to read too much of it. But yeah, Soap Opera Digest asked him if he was open to doing another daytime show, and he said 100%. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I'm an actor. I love acting. If somebody's going to ask me, I'm going to go. I'm going to get in the car. So, maybe another soap will pick him up. And we'll see how he does on there. We kind of talked about this on Sunday. I think GH, and I think someone else said it in the chat. It wasn't me that necessarily said this, but we talked about it. That they really kind of boxed Roger into a character that was sort of like the same each time. Like, it's almost as if he was typecast on GH to play a certain kind of character. In other words, we were talking about how both Franco and Austin were really written as Todd under Roger, just like milder versions essentially. But maybe that's where things kind of went wrong. They tried so hard to make these other characters be like Todd, and it just, it doesn't work. Todd can only be working for Todd. And I mean, that really came up because personally I question the hype around Roger Howarth, because he's always played this one character. He's always played a similar character, and the one time that they did have him sort of play someone who was essentially not supposed to be like him was when Franco inherited Drew's memories during that bizarre storyline, and he didn't play him well at all. So that was my sort of thing. Nikisha, you said, I'll never forgive him for what he did to Sam and Michael. It was wild that Carly dated him. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I was on Soap Central, just kind of messaging, or not messaging, but like in one of the topics about Roger, and people were mad that he was kicked off, but I was like, the writing that happened under Franco was so like blatantly I don't know. It was all about Roger. They didn't care about the character's history. They stuck him with Carly, despite the fact that he got her son raped. All because Roger and Laura worked well together as Todd and Carly. And apparently, like, the history of the Franco character did not matter. And that's what pissed off a lot of fans. And it was like the same thing over and over. Like, this was clearly all a Roger thing. All the rewrites that we saw. If this were any other, let's be realistic here. If this was any old actor that had no ties to Frank Valentini and Ron Carlivati, they wouldn't have spent all that time throwing him around in all these different characters and different storylines and different rewrites. Like, first they made Franco a Quartermain, and then, and then they kind of took him out of the Quartermain family and stuck him with Carly for a bit, and then they pulled him out of the relationship with Carly because fans were mad about it, and they put him with Nina. And at that time, I felt like there was this bubble on GH of all these new characters played by actors from different shows, where the actors were essentially playing characters that they used to play, but with different names. And they had no ties to any of the GH characters. They were all sort of in their own little bubble, and it was like there was no point in them even being on GH because they weren't interacting with anyone else, because they were all sort of town pariahs. And then they, after that, when they realized they couldn't sort of keep them in that bubble, they pushed Nina to Valentine and they pushed Franco to Elizabeth. And then the problem with Elizabeth was that, she's this character whose arguably most iconic storyline is that she was raped as a teenager. It is something that anyone who watches GH or has for that long, or, even has watched long enough to have heard the history at some point. To put that character with Franco, that pissed a lot of people off. Like, you're putting this girl who was raped with a man who used rape as a weapon on a kid and also tortured the father of her child's life for years. Like, it just didn't make sense. And I felt that they really ruined the character of Elizabeth by having her, being stuck with this guy. And I know that Frizz eventually got their fan base, but to be honest, I think that a lot of it stemmed from Roger Howarth fans that was happy that they have him with a character on GH, and Becky fans who were just relieved that she was getting screen time again. Like, that's what I felt like made their fan base initially. And then I think as time went on, I felt like the rest of the audience was kind of beaten into complacency and like accepting the fact that, oh, we're stuck with them, and hey, they have good chemistry. I guess we can ignore all the plot holes in the tumor storyline and just, la 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 to it and just try to enjoy the couple. Like, you know what I mean? That's how I felt with Franco and Liz. And then I have no idea why they truly killed Franco off. The biggest rumor is that they didn't want characters associated with rape on the show anymore. There's no confirmation of that. Is it plausible? Maybe, because they killed Luke off as well. And they didn't have to, because Tony wasn't on the show anymore. They killed Franco even though he had a baby with Kim. Wasn't there like a back and forth with like that it might be Julian's though? Oh, I just splashed water in my eye. But yeah, wasn't there kind of like a twist and turn? Not that it matters because Julian's dead too. Come on, I love that you always try to bring Days into the conversation, but I will not watch the show, and I do not plan to. But I give you a thumbs up for always trying. Yeah, but with Todd, we had a dark. Yeah, so I mean, well, that's the thing. Like Todd, he didn't exit the show because of his sort of polarizing history. But you know, realistically, if Frank Valentini really wanted to, he could have brought Todd back. He knows that the fans enjoy Todd, but he didn't, and I feel like that kind of may ultimately kind of give a little bit of merit to that rumor about not wanting characters that were rapists on the show. So I don't know. And it's funny because obviously the character's wife came on recently, but she didn't mention Todd at all. So I feel like even that speaks volumes there. You have a feeling that Julian is the reason why Dr. Austin is dead? How do you figure? Franco was the best mate for Liz, but he wasn't though, because he got a child raped, and she was a child that was raped. Like, it's not just about the chemistry. You gotta like put her history and his in there. Now, if you know, they could have, like, let's say they never put Frizz together. If let's say they didn't ever bring Franco on, if they wanted to put a character like Austin on, and you know, as a doctor, and pair him with Elizabeth, maybe that could have worked. But you know, and the thing is, like, I think when they brought Austin on, obviously there was the Frizz pairing, but history shows that just because two actors had chemistry as two, you know, former characters does not mean that they will have the same chemistry as two new characters. Well, one new character anyway. And it might have been jarring for fans to see this guy that looked like Franco but isn't Franco being paired with Elizabeth. Who knows? When the One Life to Live characters came onto PC, I actually disliked it. So did I. You know, I didn't watch, like, you know, for me, as someone who didn't watch All My Children and One Life to Live, really, I watched a little bit of All My Children here and there. But as someone who, you know, didn't follow the show at all, really, I didn't want these characters on my show. And, you know, they're bringing them on, and they're talking about all this history that I couldn't care less about. And they're hogging the air, you know? They were on more than some of the GA characters themselves, and that was frustrating in itself. And then the show got sued for it, so like, it is what it is. And I get it, like, they had to make 3 new characters for these actors to play. They had to do it. They were on contract. They were obligated to fulfill the contract no matter what. So, like, you know, they brought them on as 3 different characters, and to this day I think that it was the biggest mistake to bring Franco on at all, because first of all, anyone that watched the original trilogy, anyone that was a GH fan before the One Life characters came on, I think it's safe to say most of us would have been relieved to never see Franco again. You know, the character was killed. He had his trilogy. You know, 3 strikes, you're out. It wasn't a character anyone really loved, particularly. It was a character formed because James Franco was bored and wanted to be on GH. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and the character was, like, madly obsessed with Jason. And, you know, it was pretty obvious that Guza, who was writing the show during the Franco tenure, was obsessed with the character of Jason as well. So it was almost like watching Guza sort of live his dreams through the character of like being around Jason all the time. That's what it felt like watching it as someone who like, you know, kind of mocked Guza's obsession with Jason for years. What else are y'all saying? Putting this with Franco was the worst idea. I agree. They made Franco as an anti-hero. I hated that. So did I. Missed Sky on my TV. That's the thing. So, I mean, Sky was brought onto the show when crossovers, like, they didn't happen as often. And I think, you know, it's not as jarring if they bring one character from a different show on. And the thing with Sky is I think she had history on all 3 shows, right? But, you know, they also, at least on the GH front, I can't speak for, I don't know which show she was on first, if it was All My Children or One Life. But they brought her on and really gave her a history with Quartermaines. You know, she genuinely thought Alan was her father. She didn't come on, as far as I know, really spewing all of her past character's history. Yeah, they brought Sky's mom in for a bit, but they kind of had to give Alan and her that history as well. So, I don't know. I feel like they integrated her character in a way that you didn't have to know who she was on another show to like the character, and they didn't throw all this history of and all these names that we don't know. If we were just GH viewers, she was on All My Children first, okay, but yeah, like we didn't have to know the history, and I think GH did a good job at like not really focusing on the fact that she's been on another soap, but just like, hey, I'm from Alan's past. This is my mother. She had an affair with him. I could be his child. And they didn't really touch too much on like All My Children history on that front. So, you know, that's how you're supposed to integrate a character. But with the One Life to Live characters, we got 3 of them all at once, and all these other characters were coming in from One Life to Live and interacting with these characters and getting all this screen time and talking about their history on these other shows that GH viewers who didn't watch One Life had no idea about, nor did they care. You know? If you were a fan of all 3, I think, you know, or watched all 3, or watched One Life at least, I could see where the excitement would be. But I think that those fans have to realize that not everyone loved all the ABC soaps. Not everyone watched all the ABC soaps. So not everyone's going to care about who's it and what's it from One Life making a guest appearance, but suddenly they're on screen all the time talking about their history. It just felt like Frank Valentini and Ron Carlivati could not let go of One Life to Live, and then GH really suffered for it, and then they had to deal with this lawsuit, and we had to get these jarring exits and like months of, or not months, but like several weeks of them having to sort of acknowledge the history with these characters but not being able to say the names of them. Like, it was just so cringe to have to deal with for so long. Hated Ron's writing. Yeah, so did I. Then it turned out that Ray lied and Alan wasn't her father. I forget who her real father is, though. Yeah, I don't remember that part of the storyline either. But Alan loved her anyway, and he adopted her. So, you know, in the end, it sort of worked out. I'm just saying, to usher her in, they gave her a history with a character on GH. Or like a possibility. They threw her in there in a way that you didn't have to know who she was to learn to like the character. And they didn't bring all of who she was from All My Children into GH. So I think that's why Sky did resonate with a lot of viewers, whereas a lot of people sort of resented Todd, Star, and John, and, you know, all these other characters that made appearances back then. But yeah, anyway, again, going back to Austin, I don't want to say that there wasn't moments where I felt like Austin had potential, but I think I don't know, they just switched it around so much. I felt like it was weird to put Roger with Kirsten, first of all. Like, I feel like Austin and Maxie were, like, very mismatched. And I think a lot of it was because Maxie, she has this youthful energy to her, you know? I know she's a full-blown adult, but she feels very young, and Roger is, you know, like a more distinguished, sort of nuanced sort of actor, and the character of Austin was also like an older character. And it's not ageist, it's just that, like, we've always seen Maxie with kind of people her age, so it just felt weird to put her with, like, this guy Austin, who's like much older than her, and they didn't really have much chemistry, I felt. However, before all the sort of awkward mob doctor stuff, I felt like putting him on GH was nice, because, you know, the show really could use doctors, but then they had to make him shady, and I think it just kind of like the idea to make him a shady character happened while he was still with Maxie, and that's why she broke up. She sensed the shadiness, and she was like, I'm good. And so I feel like that's where things started to go wrong. Giving him shades of gray when there was no need for it. I wouldn't have even mind if he stuck with the Quartermaine angle and, like, you know, had him sort of have relationships with the Quartermaines. One thing that I did like with Austin was his interactions with Leo, and sort of being the one to diagnose him as having autism. And, you know, the chemistry with the kid was quite nice, and it really made the character likable. And then they just threw in this mob doctor stuff, and it was like, why? You know, like, they're like, why did they do that? It just felt stupid to me. And then, like, it felt pointless to me. They did not need to sort of tie him in to mob dealings. It didn't bring a layer that was necessary to the character. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe the writers thought that it would make it more interesting if he had shades of gray, but not every character needs to have that. And I think that's where GH kind of struggles, because it seems like they always kind of want to do that with every character they bring on. They want to have him or her nice, and then they also want them to have, like, a dark past. And while it's okay for some characters, it doesn't need to happen with every character. And I think also that kind of falls into the sort of typecast that they've really put Roger in on the show, and that, you know, Todd and Franco both have dark pasts, and they were trying to be a better person, for lack of a better explanation of that. But, you know, they could have had a fresh, clean slate with Austin and given him something new to play. And I feel like that's kind of why Michael Easton has had more success with Finn. I know that he's not the most liked character, but they found a niche for him, and they didn't try to write him like John McBain, and they didn't try to write him like Silas. Yes, they made him a doctor like Silas, but when you look back at the character of Silas and the character of Finn, those two are nothing alike. So, I don't know, it all comes down to giving the actor something new to play. And I think while Roger himself has stated that, you know, he likes acting and he's down for whatever, I think any actor would sort of love to play something new. And maybe the writers were too committed to making him play the same character constantly. That's just my take on it. I don't know. I'm not some insider, you know? But you know, maybe Roger could have if they let him. The Frank and Drew angle, like it's kind of hard to like use that fully. I know I mocked it and said that he did an awful job, and he did do an awful job of that character, but that character was ridiculous to begin with. You know, he was mind mapped into having a different personality. I just, bring on a normal character for him to play and give him layers that he hasn't had to take on before, and maybe it could have worked out. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Another thing that I liked, like, I feel like they should have just went with the Quartermain and Doctor angle and just kept him there and given him stories in the hospital and maybe build relationships with other doctors and nurses on the show. Maybe in that case they could have put him with Elizabeth instead of Finn. Who knows? Who knows? Silas was a pretty forgettable character. Yeah, he really was. Like, there was no love lost when the character died. And, like, again, I felt like Silas was also kind of put in that bubble that I talked about earlier with Franco and Nina, because Silas was one that had ties to Nina, and Kiki, who again had no real ties to GH characters. Like, he was just among that bubble with them. And I think that's what ultimately failed with him, and that's probably why they wanted to make him a new character. And it's not that this character had any ties to GH, because he didn't. Well, at first he didn't. Obviously, he became a character that had a tie with Jackie Templeton. But, Silas was a nerd, Finn is a geek. That's the difference. No, but I feel like Finn has a very distinct personality. Like, yeah, like Finn is a geek for sure, and Silas, I don't know. Silas just seemed very serious, and Finn was like cynical but had humor, like a good sense of humor to him. Like, he's a bit morbid, but like he had his quirks, like having a pet lizard that was his like sort of what do they call it? His service animal. and they played up to the humor a lot more while he's been Finn than they ever did while he was Silas. Yeah, John, Caleb, Silas, Clay, and Finn. But in all fairness, Caleb, that was always meant to be a short throwback character that wasn't going to stay around. You know what I mean? So I know that I've been like, oh, he's played all these characters on GH, but I don't know. There was never a time where I think any of us were going to think that he would stay around as Caleb. It was really just like GH taking the opportunity to throw back to Port Charles because they had Lynn Herring, they had John Lindstrom, they had Kelly Monaco, and they had Michael Easton. So for them to not sort of pay homage to that, I feel like it would have been a missed opportunity. As cringe as it was, I didn't mind the ridiculous campy stuff during the 50th anniversary, because that's kind of the point of like celebrating a milestone, is to kind of acknowledge all the history, even if it's in cheesy ways. It was just like a fun little nod, and that's how I sort of like have always seen it in my head. It probably did piss off the Port Charles fans, I'm sure, because it recanted a lot of things, and inevitably it was rewritten to be all in Lucy Coe's head, right? So, well, supposedly, in the end, we kind of seen him come back to life, but it's just never been acknowledged again ever since. So, yeah, it's true. Silas is technically Nell's father. And Willow's. Oh, you sickly missed the 50th year. 50th year was fun. It was campy, but like that style of writing, it couldn't have a long life on a show that sort of needs to kind of move on. And I think that was proven with how the 2014 year happened. Because they tried the campy stuff even beyond the 50th anniversary, and it just didn't work. You know, it didn't work. They weren't acknowledging, like, they weren't throwing back to anything. They were just trying to keep up the campy portion of the writing. And GH is not a campy show. You know? It's not supposed to be. It can be for a milestone, but, like, it shouldn't continue on that path. And I think Ron Carlivati learned that the hard way. Roger will not be any other character. Well, I mean, he confirmed that Frank Valentini said that he's not renewing his contract. So, like, you know, like he could be, but I think, I don't know, maybe this is me being hopeful, but I like to think that the writers pay attention to the fans to some extent, because I feel like everyone's been pretty vocal about the special treatment Roger has gotten on GH. And, you know, we've talked about it on here. I'm sure I'm not the only live streamer that's brought it up at some point as well. You know, like, clearly the amount of time they spent trying to rewrite and pass the character around, Franco on the show, like, if this was any other actor, again, they would cut their loss after one try, and there were so many attempts with Roger. And then as fans that witnessed that, we were seeing it again with Austin, and like passing him around the cast and hoping something will stick. So I think if they had dared to bring him back on again at this point, I think it would have opened up a can of worms that would make the fans sort of be very vocal. And the only fans that probably wouldn't care if he comes back again as another character are Roger's fans. And all due respect to Roger's fans, it's not right that this character, like that this guy is getting all these tries. Like, you know, it's not working. The man is not working. And I don't want to see another attempt. Y'all had your chances twice to give Roger a compelling character and failed. So, like, cut your ties and move on. We don't want to see another attempt again for the foreseeable future, at least. What are y'all saying? GH stopped after 2014. Has Will ever asked Nina about Silas? Nope. What happened to the doc and similar stories on GH? Oh, what happened to Silas, you mean? Silas was murdered. Silas was murdered by, I think, by Nina's mother, right? Nina's mother murdered Silas. Hi, SLJ. Oh yes, happy Thanksgiving again to all of my American fans out there. Come on, you're not in America, right? Where are you? Is it Thanksgiving over there too? They didn't know what to do with Roger. They wanted every character to be Todd instead of a new character. Yeah, that's the thing. And I think, you know, like personally, you guys already know how I feel about Roger's acting. I would have liked to have been proven wrong, and they could have proved it wrong by giving him a character that was completely different from Todd and Franco, but they didn't. They just made him a less interesting version. Yeah, Madeline stabbed Silas. Madeline, sorry. Is Nina's mother is dead too, right? Valentine killed her, right? And got away with it? Made it seem like someone else killed her, but we know that it was Valentine. Oh, you're from France, but you live in New York. Okay, so you are in America. Okay. On Coney Island, huh? I feel like I kind of would just want to visit Coney Island one day. I've only been to like Buffalo, New York, and New York City. And I don't even remember like either of it really. I was that young. Yes, Nina's mother is unalived. Again, another thing that Valentine Gaston got away with. Just like faking Claudette's death, and she's still out there. How do we feel about Valentine's reaction to Anna today, you guys? First of all, I do think it was stupid that Anna went into Charlotte's room knowing that the girl is afraid of her. Like, that was not the way to handle it. But yeah. Valentine, I don't know. The man did this to himself. And I think he knows it, and he's just trying to, like, sort of place blame on Anna a little bit. I think Valentine has a hard time accepting that he's wrong, and Anna kind of said that to an extent as well. Like, you know, she said, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but he had no faith in her. You know, he doesn't trust anyone because he knows that he himself isn't trustworthy, and in the end it bit him in the ass because his daughter got shot because of his mistrust. Oh yeah, the Forsyth thing. So, I mean, we're obviously going to talk about a lot of this on Sunday. But Forsyth, the man that was supposedly after Anna, is dead. Why? I have no idea. I thought that we were going to see Forsyth, and the only place we saw him in was in a body bag. And Anna confirmed it was him. So I don't know if someone's trying to frame Anna into killing Forsyth, or if, I mean, they had Sunny looking into Forsyth too, so maybe someone's trying to frame Sunny into as the killer. I don't know, or maybe Sunny really did kill Forsyth. I don't know. But yeah, someone's out there that just murdered that guy. The relationship is definitely over. Yeah, that's not something that they're going to come out of. Like, Anna has to spend the rest of her life knowing that she shot a child because of Valentine's inability to trust Anna with the truth, which is super messed up considering they've been together for years and have known each other for decades. Charlotte needs some kind of punishment. She needs to learn a lesson. She does. And I think the one thing that I will give Valentine is, at this point, like, the cards are left where they have left. At this point, he does need to be the one to sit Charlotte down and explain Victor to her. It's interesting as well because I figured that like he kind of did to an extent, or must have to an extent. Because obviously she knew that she was stuck at this school in a different country, and that Victor kind of had a hand in it, and that she couldn't see her father. But I don't know, maybe not. She was young. It's hard to say. But like, I don't know. He needs to sit her down and tell her the kind of man that Victor was. He even needs to sit her down and maybe tell her what went down in where were they? In Greenland, and to just show her the kind of man that he was. Like, I don't know, because I don't think Charlotte is aware of what Valentine went through over there, but Victor done poisoned him with a pathogen that he was going to unleash on the entire world. Like, he brought him to death's door. But yeah, he needs to sit down and talk to her about the kind of man that Victor was, and how horrible he was to Valentine himself. To be like, this is a man you can't trust. This man tried to kill me. Yeah, be stern to your child. Exactly. Stop coddling her. And that's I think another thing that I find really jarring with Charlotte and Valentine's relationship is that they've acknowledged that Charlotte is in high school. Like, she's a high school girl, and I feel like they are trying to still write her as this little girl. Like, they're trying to write her as if she's still in elementary school, and her calling him Papa, and him like speaking to her in little French words that she never responds to in French, and like talking about riding horses like she's like this little girl still. Like, this is a like, think back to when we were all 15 years old. Were any of us like this at 15? We even seen Jocelyn at 15, and even she wasn't coddled the way that Charlotte is coddled. She's, he treats her like a little girl, and she acts like one. They're acting like she's this elementary school kid, and she's not. She is a high school kid. Her mind is well developed. Yes, she is not an adult, but she is certainly not a kid anymore either. Like, I don't know. It's just ridiculous. Unless Victor hypnotized Charlotte. I don't know. I mean, obviously tarot cards at some point were used to hypnotize people within the Cassadine realm. But, I feel like if she was truly hypnotized in the same way maybe Jason, or who was it? Drew, that Drew and Dante were hypnotized. She would have been the one that burned the damn house down. You know what I mean? But we know that she didn't do it. She just did all the petty things. And like no one triggered her to, like, nothing triggered her to do it. Like, we didn't see her like go into a trance and sneak into a room, and she's fully admitting that she did those things, whereas I don't think Dante had any memory of doing what he had done while he was hypnotized. And same with Drew. Hey Brooklyn, you said, what do I think of Curtis asking Nina for her password to finding evidence for him? I mean, we know Nina and Curtis are close, so it doesn't surprise me that much. It really does. I don't know. I don't feel nothing for it, really. Like, it doesn't surprise me that she's helping him and giving him access to these things. At 15, I would have attempted to respond back in French. Make my French teacher proud. Well, there you go. Drew was hypnotized by a card. Him and Dante both. Him and Dante both. But yeah, like, I don't know. I think even James Patrick Stewart has mentioned that he thinks the French thing is ridiculous. Because I think that the actor I mentioned, he speaks a little bit of French, and the writers really, like, rolled with it. But, like, he doesn't speak it that great. You know? So, and I don't know, like, why they're giving him this history of, like, just being French and this, I don't know. Like, it just doesn't, it's never made sense to me. But yeah, I don't know. They gotta stop writing Charlotte like she's still 7 years old. And if I have to hear Valentine call her ma petite one more time, it's just so stupid. It's stupid. But anyway, y'all, it's been like an hour. We've kind of gone off the topic of Austin and Roger Howarth now. So I think we'll wrap the stream here. But in terms, I do wish Roger all the best. I just don't want him on this show anymore. As awful as that sounds, I don't want him on the show anymore. And I think, you know, it's unfortunate that Austin was written. The writing for Austin was all over the place. I think they could have thrived if they just stuck to one lane and just developed him in that one lane. Because they had so much to go with in terms of, like, you know, being attached to the Quartermaines and being a good doctor to Leo and having him build relationships with other doctors and nurses on the show. There was potential there. You know, even his relationship with Britt. He had a good relationship with Britt too. They were like a non-couple, but you know, they had a good friendship going, and I think that they could have built on that. But of course, Britt, you know, left the show too, so it wouldn't have lasted long. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We will be live again Sunday. We'll talk about GH as a whole at the end of the week. I'm looking forward to watching the Thanksgiving episode whenever I get to watch it. I'm hoping I get to watch it tomorrow. I'm not hopeful. I'm not, you know, I doubt that I will, but I'll try, maybe. It's just when I get home from my other commitment, I have to go right to bed because I gotta be up for work like a whole hour earlier than usual. So, yeah. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you liked the live stream, give it a big old thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and I will catch you guys this Sunday. Good night. Mwah.